The views, opinions, and insinuations made by the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the show, the management, and Vantage Point Media.
Okay, good afternoon po mga kababayan at mga kaibigan, mga katoto. Nandito po tayo ngayon sa Orion's Belt, bagong programa ngayon na ako po ang host. Ako po si Orion, Perez, Dumdum. At pag-uusapan po natin ang napakaraming ibang mga topics. No? Hindi lang po tayo tungkol sa constitutional reform or politics, pero next time pwede tayo magkaroon ng mga guests on different topics. Ano? So, kaya po ang pangalan nito ay Orion's Belt ay para iba't ibang topics po pwede natin mapag-usapan. Hindi tayo nakapako sa isang napaka-narrow lang na, na larangan. So, ganun po. So, friends and ladies and gentlemen, we have two very important guests today. No? So, very important special guests. No? At ang pag-uusapan po natin ngayong araw na ito ay may kinalaman po sa, well, of course, constitutional reform. Alam niyo naman po, yan ang isa sa mga lagi kong pinag-uusapan. At pag-uusapan din natin yung mga surveys na nagsilabasan. No? Of course, nandun din yung sa Pulse Asia na lumabas, pero nandun din yung sa Tangere. Nandun din yung lumabas galing sa Pahayag. No? So, without much further ado, gusto ko pong presenta sa inyo ang aking mga guests. Siyempre, ladies first. So, ang kasama po natin isa dito ay si Justin Manila. Isa po siyang social media content creator. Alright? So, this Justin, or Justine ba? Is it best, Justine Manila or Justin Manila?
Justin Manila. But you can call me Just, sir. It's okay.
Okay, good. Thanks for that info. And then, yung kasama nating lalaki, kaso lalaki at babae, ang kasama nating lalaki dito ngayon as a guest is none other than my good friend, si Dr. Emmanuel Doy Santos. No? Isa po siyang policy technocrat. Galing po siya sa South Australia, so he works dun sa Adelaide. No? G'day, mate. G'day, mate. What's going on? A shrimp on a barbie. Ayun po. So, without much further ado, let's start off with the topic. No? Yung pag-uusapan natin, yung, of course, yung pagtatanggal ng mga constitutional restrictions against foreign direct investments at yung mga nagsilabasang mga survey results. No? Alright, so ano masasabi natin dito? Justin Manila, what do you think about what's going on here?
I think kasi a lot of people are actually reacting na parang konti lang naman pala yung sumusuporta of the constitutional amendments. Kasi if you will see the Pulse Asia survey, medyo it's quite misleading in a sense. I think I wrote something about that on my Twitter page. Kasi if you will look at the results, kasi medyo concerning dahil just like what the legislators are saying sa mga interviews nila, parang the questions are not really in connection with the current measures na filed in both houses. If you will see the questions there, sobrang ang pinag-uusapan lang natin, di ba mga sir, 3 economic amendments in advertising, in education, and in, what else? Advertising, education,
public
and
services.
Public services. Pero, pag tinignan natin yung survey, it actually says that instead of just advertising, the question was, pati media as a whole na, 'di ba? Instead of just talking about the three economic provisions or restrictions, pumasok na dun si unilateral, si bilateral, the term extensions, things na parang nagpa-hesitant sa mga tao before into supporting the amendments. I was listening to experts like yesterday, listening to you, you were like saying that the RBH 6 and RBH 7 are actually conservative. Diba?
Yes.
Napaka-conservative niya. So, now, para sa akin, sir, as a political junkie and a social media influencer or user in a sense, sobrang nakaka-bother the statements of the Senate President and other senators na parang hesitant na daw sila just because of this survey. Well, in fact, it doesn't really reflect the measures being filed. Diba, sir?
Yun na nga, 88% daw ayaw, no? But of course, we actually do know, naalala po natin na ang Pulse Asia, sorry to the guys in Pulse Asia, pero may history po kayo ng medyo minamanipula ninyo yung interpretasyon, no? Kasi nga, nung 2018, nagkaroon ng time, in March 2018 at saka June 2018, nagkaroon sila ng dalawang survey. Ang main question was about federalism at that point in time. So, willing ba, sumasang-ayon ba kayo na magkaroon ng pagbabago sa saligang batas para magkaroon ng federalism? And roughly, ang una, I think in March 2018, it's almost 30% na gustong ngayon. Sige, baguhin na natin para mag-federalism tayo ngayon na. Around 30%. Tapos yung or almost 30%. Tapos yung mga another 30% gusto rin nila pero hindi ngayon. No? Tapos meron another 30% or almost 30% or more than 30%, roughly, mga ayaw nila. So so no, never. Tapos meron din yung mga parang siguro 6% yata yun ng mga don't know or di nila alam talaga. So yun yung lumalabas ngayon. Pag pinagsama natin yung mga gusto, which is both the yes now at yung mga yes later, ano yan? Actually more than 60%, baka 60%, almost roughly 60% yun. Kasi nga, almost 30% yes now, almost 30% yes later. So almost 60% yun. Diba? 57% yata yung labasan nun. And then the same thing happened dun sa June 2018. So, may ganung history ang Pulse Asia sa yung ganung hindi nila sinasabi na actually karamihan gusto. Pinapalabas nila na mukhang ayaw ng mga tao.
Yeah, well, I think it's more yung how you interpret the results, di ba? Kasi that's an example.
Yeah.
And how the media spins creates the story about it.
Yeah.
Kasi as you said nga, more were really inclined. Kasi yung question na yon, dalawa yung tinatanong Hindi lang kung pabor ka o hindi. Pabor ka ba na gawin yan gayon?
Oo.
So, dalawang actually naka-embed sa isang tanong lang. Yung So, it complicates parang when you kasi ako nagde-design din ako ng survey.
Yes.
So when you design a question, you don't want to confuse
the respondents.
Issue. Yes. You don't want to make it ask two questions in one.
Oo.
Kasi may question about your position vis-a-vis the change, but then there's also the position as to the timing.
Mm-hmm.
So now that you've split it up, yung mga pro, mga yes now, yes later, pwede mo na ngayon ipakita na parang, ito lang yung talagang pabor. Ang dali, di ba? Kasi nahati mo na And then so you can spin it as majority don't want it now. So in effect, you've asked them, you've asked them, you've gotten the response, you have tabulated it correctly. So now it's how the media will spin it. And I often find that the media will take an issue or lazy journalism will take an issue and use a frame that is yung madali yung nagasgas na or nabent, yung naging bumenta na. Because it's easier to package it in a 30-second, media report na ganito. Or to just and the media, let's face it, are one of those sectors that are the Constitution says should be 100% owned by Filipinos. So isa rin silang stakeholder na pwede rin tamaan if not now, maybe in the future, di ba?
Exactly.
So of course, I'm not saying all of them do it, but also it's easier to contradict, mas magkaka-hits yun diba? From just simply presenting the I found that when you ask yung sinabi mo, Justin, there was a rider dun sa
Questions.
Pulse Asia one of the outfits that we were attending yesterday inserted na hindi naging part of the public where they simply asked, pabor ba kayo na ilagay sa Constitution unless otherwise provided by law? And what was the result? It was like more than 50%.
57%?
57%
I'm not sure. 57%
said yes, pabor kami dyan. So when the actual proposal or proposition is asked, majority, and that kind of lines up with the Tangere survey, no?
52% naman yun,
where they simply ask one question, do you agree or disagree?
Yeah.
Yun. Kapag isa lang yung tanong, wala na yung timing or whatever, klaro yung resulta. Kapag may dalawang two-in-one ka, naguguluhan yung tao. So, but this is important because it's the same outfit, Pulse Asia, who ran those two questions, no? But the results are starkly different when you just focus on what's on the table right now.
It just goes to show na merong kinalaman talaga yung paano mo tinanong yung tanong di ba? The manner by which you ask the question will elicit a particular type of response from your respondent, di ba? Parang yun yung nangyayari. Kaya may paminsan unfair
there's a famous clip, there's a famous episode there's this show, alam natin yung House of Cards, di ba? Yung American version.
The American version, pero yung original niyan
yung original niyan, nag-start yan sa BBC, British, So the original House of Cards, there was a pollster character na babae, very ambitious. So she cozied up to the PM or the guy who wanted to become PM. Sabi niya, I like your attitude. Sabi niya gano'n. Yeah, well, I'm a pollster. I can work for you. Sabi niya, oh yeah, really? I don't know anything about polls. Tapos sabi ng babae, what kind of outcome do you want? I can frame the question to get the outcome. To get that outcome. Sabi niya, yung famous line Kasi
which makes sense.
It is the dark arts of survey design. Na you can, if you want a certain result, you really can design the question.
Actually, sir, let's look at the perspective if you're the one who's answering the survey. Nakita mo, parang there are scenarios there na parang, may term extension. May unilateral, bilateral, mababago yung sistema. Tas, if you will see the scenarios as given by the Pulse Asia dun sa mga tables, even ako, if I ran into that survey, I would say na not now. Because if you're gonna propose all of those things, might as well know. Pero kaya nga I understand what you're saying, sir. Just like you, I also design surveys myself, but in a different sector. But the main point is, if you really want a result which reflects, kumbaga parang it's more of a data gathering for you to see the truth and not into a propaganda of some sort, you have to make your questions clear, and just by that. And I also would like to reiterate what Sir Doy said, that you said na parang sa Tangere, isa lang yung question and it's clear. People understand exactly what you want to, okay, malinaw to sa akin, this is my view, fine, this is it. Kasi pag nilito mo nga naman sila, wag mo na ngayon, diba? These are the scenarios that you have. Meron siyang mga parang fear somehow. Na, tsaka we have to remember yung mga black propaganda against Chacha, especially during this time. Gusto lang magpa-term extension yan. Gusto lang, alam mo yun,
Correct.
even if what's on the table is a conservative version of the amendment, and of all people, I think the two gentlemen that I have it would know that, diba?
Yeah. So yeah, it's just saying it's not even going to lift the restrictions. It's just the restrictions will remain as they are, except that Congress will be allowed to legislate to change that. They could even tighten the restrictions or loosen it, except in the case of the Public Services Act, where there is already a law that they passed which allowed for 100% in public services, because they removed it from the definition of utilities. So only that one, if ever, will pass, because the phrase "unless otherwise provided by law" will actually protect that law from being questioned in the Supreme Court, which it is being questioned right now. And there are lots of investments that are in danger. That are actually in danger right now. Nakakasana
in jeopardy.
And so if the Supreme Court strikes down the law, because a senior associate justice Carpio said, they're very jealous of their power. What Congress did could be interpreted as usurping the power of the Supreme Court to interpret what a utility means in the Constitution. Whatever is stated in the Constitution, the Supreme Court is the final arbiter. And so you can't have a Congress who can just define away the restrictions by defining it, the way they want to.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court will have the final say, plain and simple.
Meron kahapon, di ba? There was this other panelist. I think she was with the Foundation for Economic Freedom. I forgot what her name was, but meron siya sinasabi na ang nangyayari with the RBH 6 and 7, we're not opening the door, we're unlocking it. So basically, nakalock siya.
Yeah.
Hindi naman natin binubuksan yung pinto. Pero at least man lang yung nakalock na andun, yung
kandado.
Yung kandado. Oo, pinapa-unlock natin.
Tsaka, how it takes a long time to legislate,
Yeah, it'll take time.
Yun pa isang issue. Yung PSA, at least may legislation. Pero ang tagal din yan. It took how long before the PSA was amended, di ba? So, like, even now, the Constitution for professions, the Constitution already says, unless provided for by law, for professionals foreign professionals to exercise and practice their professions here. But still, no one, and the trade deals we have signed up to, yung RCEP, Regional Comprehensive
yung sa ASEAN ba yun? Ito sa ASEAN, di ba? Yeah.
That's broader. Parang yung led by China, yung RCEP.
Yung RCEP,
TPP, kasama na services dun eh. You're supposed to allow foreign professionals both ways. May reciprocity dapat yun. We're still not in compliance with that.
Kasi tayo mga Pilipino, pwede tayong mag-work in many different countries. Pero yung question is, sila ba pwede pumunta sa Pilipinas?
Ngayon may constitutional restriction.
Parang ban nga eh.
But even now, we can already legislate because that phrase is already there in the Constitution. But have we done it since 1980? Wala. And have we done it since we signed RCEP or TPP? The CTPP, Comprehensive Trans-Pacific Partnership, wala pa rin eh. So it could take 10, 20 years before these restrictions in advertising or and in education, they're inserting the word basic.
Yeah.
So ang matatamaan lang, ang pwede lang unless otherwise provided is the basics, primary and secondary will be still 60-40. Yung higher ed yung magiging lifted based on the resolutions of both houses 6 and 7.
6 and 7.
So, yung basic na yun yung pinagtuunan ng pansin ng Department of Education, 'di ba? Sabi nila, and yung position nila and nung mga student basta may mga maraming may estudyante doon na bakit raw, mawawalan daw yung basic education, yung kulang daw ng investment, dapat yung gobyerno mag-i-invest, yung mga ganun. Anyway, hindi naman talaga sakop yun eh. Hindi nila talaga sakop yun. Unless otherwise provided by law, and it could take 10 to 20 years. So that's the issue.
May I just say, sir, one of the things na parang nagulat ako na merong contention was in education. Since sobrang gulat na gulat ako because the curriculum as per our law will still be followed. Kumbaga, even if there are foreign investors who would 100% own a university here in the Philippines, they still need to have
Comply.
Rizal.
They still need to comply.
Yeah, they still have to need
Yes.
to comply with our curriculum.
Yes.
That's based on our laws.
Yes.
Kumbaga, all of the arguments against it na parang baka mawalan ng sense of patriotism, so on and so forth. Parang as much as I know there's a law in Rizal that I need,
Yes.
even if I'm a medical technologist.
Or Philippine history.
Yeah, when I was in college, Rizal has nothing to do with my job,
Course.
but I need to get the course. I need to get the course in Filipino. I need to
Correct.
there's a curriculum in every profession that we have in college. So if tayo talaga, di ba, ang sabi lang naman, unless otherwise provided by law. Magreklamo ako when it's a patriotism call, if ang pinapatanggal ko is Rizal or Filipino or whatever classes na talagang very us, dun ka magreklamo. But if you're gonna open it, edi mas lalo mo bang dinadala yung Filipino culture into the foreign, kasi they're obliged to
follow the rules.
To follow the rules.
Actually, I've been mentioning that several times when I was in the hearings nga, dun sa may house hearings. Sinasabi ko, paulit-ulit ko sinasabi, lahat ng mga entities na papasok sa Pilipinas, either businesses or schools, whether they be locally owned or foreign owned, it doesn't matter how much percentage, they all have to follow the rules of the Philippines. That the government, the Philippine government, will reign supreme over them. They will have sovereignty over everyone here. So they
Yes.
all have to follow whatever the government says. So what's the problem? Diba?
Actually, Orion, isa-isahin natin in the region. So you're from you were a resident of Singapore for a long time. Foreign universities have set up there, but they are required to register with the Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
And follow the rules there.
Yes,
So
yes.
even if they're foreign owned. In Australia, where I'm from, the Carnegie Mellon University was operating there for 20 years. They also had to register and comply.
Yun.
To become an Australian institution of higher learning. The same holds true for Malaysia. And during the Senate hearings, you had the former president of RMIT University, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, who testified and said, when they entered Vietnam, they also had to comply. They had to map and but the benefit of having them come in is you get the benefit both ways. They enrich their RMIT, the foreign universities also benefit, she said.
Yeah.
But then also the local, regulatory bodies and other institutions benefit also. It's a two-way,
Two-way street, yeah.
So in this era nga of yung regional cooperation and trans-Pacific partnership, ganun talaga ang ngayon dapat free flow of ideas and ways of doing things. Hindi lang naman, and as Filipinos, I find it so anachronistic kasi ang Pilipino, global ang di ba?
Yeah.
We often brag na ang Pilipino kahit saan sa mundo, di ba?
Yeah.
Pwedeng maging dala-dala niya pa rin ang pagka-Pilipino niya kahit saan sa mundo. And yet, we are afraid na ma-impluwensyahan tayo ng mga dayuhan dito sa sarili nating bayan. Kung sa ibang bansa nga hindi nga tayo hindi nga matanggal yung pagka-Pilipino natin
Exactly.
How much more if they're here?
Alam mo, Orion, I don't know if you have the same experience. naramdaman ko lang yung pagka-Pilipino ko.
Yung nasa labas na.
Yes.
Yeah, ganun na rin
That's
ako.
cool.
Pero nung nandito ako, hindi ko masyadong feel. Parang
yun.
ginagaya ko yung mga, kung mga kung magsalita, ganyan, di ba? Parang ganun tayo, di ba?
Oo nga,
For
oo
some
nga.
reason, di ba?
Oo.
In a way, parang ma-dispel na yung myth, di ba? Maganda na yung nandyan na sila. So you can really understand, di ba? Hindi
Yeah.
lang yung kapag nang ibang bansa ka lang, doon mo lang ma-appreciate yung pagka-Pilipino.
Gusto ko lang i-add nga rin, no? Yung alala ko nga, ano pangalan nung taga Nueva Ecija na there was this congresswoman from Nueva Ecija. Nagsalita rin siya.
Yes.
Meron siyang actually in-add na sinabi niya, by the way, dun sa Indonesia, nag-research nga rin siya. Sabi niya, sa Indonesia, nag-aalaw sila ng mga tawag nito, mga universities, foreign universities or institutes of higher learning na pumasok sa Indonesia pero kinakailangan din nilang mag-comply. And yung compliance nila requires na meron certain subjects silang i-inject doon.
Correct.
No, so because that's part of the law.
Yes.
So yung parang nagbigay siya ng mga examples, no, yung mga schools na nag-set up doon, kinakailangan pa rin nilang maglagay ng ganito, may 3 subjects yata na kinakailangan.
Yes.
So bakit kung kaya nilang gawin, takot tayo na ipapasok sila kasi takot tayo na hindi natin mapupuwersa. They're all supposed to follow
have
the
to.
rules of our country anyway.
Yes.
It's by
Diba?
law.
It's by law.
Na
Yes.
part of the law.
Yes.
Which is parang di naman natin, nothing in both measures actually said na parang override natin
They will
any
be-
law. It's still the law.
Yeah.
Na parang we need to comply with the curriculum na naset for that. One interesting here is that globalized, I remember from the hearings as well, the side of UP. UP said that they're globalized. They said that they
Yes.
have. They said that they actually have foreign relationships. What's this? Partnerships. Diba? Kasi all universities
May exchange program.
may exchange programs. But they said that the UP as a university is already globalized. But they set the terms na parang hindi pa rin maapektuhan how being Filipinos. So
Ayun, no?
if they can actually do that in
Yes.
UP, what makes us think na even if there's foreign schools who would come here, hindi rin natin kayang iset na parang na if the issue is just patriotism, if the issue is just like that. And we have to remember it's a tertiary education. The values of the people are already, alam mo yun, buo na.
Buo na yun eh, sa
the
basic.
identity of the person is already
Formed.
Formed.
Yeah.
You can influence them somehow, but not up to extent na ano ka na, diba?
Kumbaga, if you haven't done it by the time they reach university,
You failed already,
fail
diba?
na talaga,
Yes,
diba?
exactly. So parang sabi ko, kaya nga ako gulat na gulat with all the contention. Sabi ko, ang haba ng usapan natin when it comes to education. Well, in fact, it's just a simple answer. There are laws that are actually there which will, that they need to comply to. Diba? Parang,
Oh, tsaka 2 things, I mentioned in the Senate that RMIT, the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology, set up a 10 billion peso equivalent fund. Are we going to share technical and expertise both ways with local businesses there in Vietnam? Maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that after we go on a break. So ladies and gentlemen, mga kaibigan, mga katoto, meron po tayong commercial break sa ngayon. So just stay there. All right? See you later.
that was fun.
Yeah. Okay, mga kaibigan, mga kababayan, mga katuto, kumusta po kayo? Maraming salamat at nandito pa rin kayo sa ating programa. So ako po si Orion Perez, Dumdum for Orion's Belt, and I'm joined by two good friends here, Justin Manila and Dr. Doy Santos. No? So, may pinag-uusapan tayo kanina, no? Yung
Yes.
tungkol dun sa RMIT, pumunta sa Vietnam yata yun or
Yes,
something?
actually
Oo.
20 years na sila doon. 100% owned yung kanilang campus, Hanoi and Saigon. So, nung pumunta doon yung Prime Minister ng Australia, nag-anunsyo yung university, sinamantala nila, kumbaga, na magse-set up sila ng 250 million Australian dollar fund, investment and innovation fund. So bukod sa cultural, may economic benefit din eh.
Oo.
You know? So kasi matagal na sila ron, and marami silang faculty, may fashion, may IT, kung ano. And alam naman natin na ang Vietnam, malaki yung garments industry doon.
Oo.
Biggest exporter yan ng mga ano. So, ang gusto nila, kasi may campus din sila sa Australia, no? So, yung mga exchange ng ideas, no? So, yung cultural, namumunga ng economic and financial benefit
Yung...
after a while. So, after 20 years, biglang namunga. No? So, 10 billion pesos ang katumbas nun pag in-exchange rate mo na pinalitan mo yung ano. So, nung pumunta dito, yung Prime Minister namin, si Albo, kung tawagin namin, ang in-announce lang nila, alam mo ba kung
Ano
natatanda mo ba? Kasi last year pa yun eh. Yung Strategic Partnership Agreement. Ano yun?
Hindi ko nga maalala. Ano nga ba yun?
May pera bang kasama yun?
Parang wala.
Wala.
Eh. Laway lang ba?
Ang ano nun is magsisailing tayo sa West Philippines.
Ay, so laway nga lang. Parang ganun.
Well, hindi naman lang laway yun. I mean, you know, security.
Security related.
So, lahat ng mga leaders na pupunta rito, puro security lang ang pinag-uusapan. Di ba? And sayang, kasi gusto na nilang mag-invest. Kaso, wala silang mapaglagyan ng pera eh.
Dahil sa mga
Maraming
restrictions.
restrictions.
Sa mga restrictions natin.
May isang trade representative, trade attaché sa US Embassy, nakausap ko one time. Sabi niya, yung nung PSA nga, so ang daming gustong pumasok rito. Kaso sabi na, iilan ang pwede naming maging partner dito eh. Mabibilang mo sa kamay eh.
Kakaunti lang kasi ang mga kayang pumasok dun sa sinasabi nating 60%.
Yes.
Di ba? Yung ganun, yung mga mayayaman na Pilipino. No? Kukunti lang sila.
Kaya wala rin, parang nabibinbin din yung project kasi wala ngang mahanap na partner. And nung pumunta si Presidente sa Melbourne, okay, so si PM Albo pumunta dito. So siya naman ang pumunta doon. In-announce na yung international container terminal, yung ICSI, local company yon na humahawak dun sa Port of Manila.
Ito yung kay Enrique Rason. Diba?
Hindi ko na sana mapapagay.
Hindi mo na sana mapapagay.
Mas matapang to eh.
Alam naman ng lahat ng
Okay,
yung
so
diba?
nasa news naman.
Nasa news naman.
Inanunsyo nila na sila raw ang magpapatayo ng port sa Melbourne. Di ba nasa Congress tayo, yung congresswoman, sabi niya na yung mga ports dito, walang nag-i-invest. Parang ang mahal-mahal ng shipping dito.
Yan si Congresswoman Bernadette
Herrera ng PH party list, di ba? Yun ang nakakalungkot eh. Kasi yun, so siguro napapanahon na talaga eh, di ba? Na talagang tignan natin na tanggalin muna natin yung parang may tayo eh, may bias na tayo eh. Tignan lang talaga natin kung may benepisyo o wala, di ba? And I think yung benefit talagang marami eh.
Actually, 1992 pa lang pinag-uusapan na ni Lee Kuan Yew yan eh. Yung alala niyo yung di ba yung famous speech ni Lee Kuan Yew nung November 1992. It was November 18, 1992. Inimbita si Lee Kuan Yew, former Prime Minister na siya noon, so he was no longer Prime Minister at that time, invited by the Philippine Business Conference. So ito yung very famous speech niya na halos lahat ng mga Pilipino na alala yung sinabi niyang, I do not believe that democracy is necessary for development, I think discipline is more important than democracy. Mga ganon. Yun lang ang naaalala ng mga ordinaryong Pilipino. Pero doon sa buong speech the rest of the speech, kasi yun yung pinaka-intro ni Lee Kuan Yew eh. The rest of the speech, binabatikos ni Lee Kuan Yew yung economic system natin na sobrang sarado. Kasi pinag-usapan ni Lee Kuan Yew na wala kaming mga natural resources, marami kaming mga taong hindi naman din ganun ka-educated, pero ang ginawa namin, pinapasok namin mga foreign investors. Yung mga foreign investors na yan ang nag-create ng maraming mga jobs para sa mga ordinaryong tao naming mga hindi masyadong edukado, naging factory workers ang marami dyan, pero eventually umangat ang mga buhay nila. Gumanda. Tapos ginaya ng ibang mga bansa. Pero kayo lang ang hindi gumagaya sa amin. Na, kaya, yan, hanggang ngayon, dependent pa rin kayo sa pagpapadala ng mga OFW.
31 years later, it's still the same.
It's still the same. Parehong-pareho.
Yes.
Grabe.
Sir, I just want to go back muna po with education with the very last point. Sir, kasi from my field, my area, alam ko how important research is and bountiful of data and information. Kung napapansin po ng mga viewers natin, bumababa tayo yung mga universities natin sa rankings. So, just imagine if we have foreign universities come here in the Philippines, and let's use it to our advantage in a sense na we can have data sharing, we can do research together. That would level the education here in the Philippines. There is a reason kung bakit people are clamoring to get education from outside the country. It's not because they feel na di naman okay sa UP, di naman okay sa ganito. It's just that the rankings of those schools, if you want to get the best level of education in terms of how it's perceived, ganun talaga. And kapag may restrictions tayo, even if the government would invest more on that, iba pa din if it's the education here is globalized in a sense. Education po ang isa sa mga bagay, especially tertiary education, is something that you shouldn't restrict. Kasi you should best practice from the best practices into using the research of others for you to get a new research. Ito po yung mga bagay na in a tertiary level, especially in specialty professions, sobrang importante po niyan. And us opening our educational system to foreign schools will be beneficial, not just for our economic, but it's also for our students, for the level of education that we'll have.
And these universities will not just collaborate with other universities. They will also collaborate with local businesses.
Yes.
Okay, so for example, yung Taiwan, leader sila ng semiconductors. 'Di ba? Globally, like 80% yata ng lahat ng mga devices natin, yung mga chips nanggagaling sa Taiwan. So nanonood ako nung Taiwan Talks sa ibang channel naman yun. Sorry. Pero pinag-uusapan nila yung mga Pilipino, iniinganyo nilang pumunta sa Taipei para maturuan on how to yung technical nung paggawa ng silicon chips. Kasi ngayon ang problema dahil sa Taiwan baka sakupin ng China, ng People's Republic, linalayo na nila yung production, lumilipat na sa Estados Unidos, sa Mexico, sa Vietnam. Ngayon ang Pilipinas, meron tayong semicon industry dito na kailangan i-level up din. So isipin natin kapag binuksan natin yung restrictions na yan, yung sektor, makakapunta imbis na yung Pilipino ang pupunta doon, padala sila makaka-set up na sila rito, tuturuan yung mga pabrika rito na gumawa ng yung sobrang nipis na wafer, 'di ba? Na tipong ng buhok mo.
Strands of hair.
Yes, kasi lapad lang ng buhok mo. Yung wafer, no? That's a very guarded secret, Only a few places in the world can make that. And the head of the semicon industry here, who came from Silicon Valley, said, "Why not make it the Fab Five, the Fab Five, Set up a fab here. Why not? Di ba sabi nga ni Commerce Secretary Raimundo from the US in the recent presidential visit, you have idoble natin yung production. So those technical people can be brought here.
Yeah.
'Di ba? So yung hindi lang, and kasi ang argument ng Ched was, sige, buksan natin, pero kami yung magdidirect kung sino yung pwedeng i-partner, ganito, ganyan. Ang gusto nila puro STEM. Ang iniisip kasi na puro AI, high-tech. Pero sa Vietnam, ang ginawa nila, yung fashion, yung lang.
Oo, yun muna.
Yeah.
Hindi cutting edge yun, di ba?
But it's malaki yung impact din nun.
Di ba nawala yung garments industry dito in the 90s, pumunta sa China. And now that they're moving out of China into Southeast Asia, pwede nating pabalik dito sana, di ba? So I am doubtful whether our authorities are even thinking about that.
Yeah.
So hayaan na lang natin na pumasok whoever, and then they can decide whether to give, to issue kung maganda naman talaga, compliant, etc.
Yes.
It's not true na walang market. Because I know for a fact, may mga kaibigan ako, sa sobrang hirap na pumasok sa UP at yung top universities, sa ibang bansa na lang nila pinapadala yung mga anak nila And also because bumababa pati yung ranking.
Yung ranking. So mahirap na nga, mababa pa yung ranking. So ano ba naman yan?
Di ba? Ang natutunan ko lang sa UP yung kung paano pumila. Kasi registration ang haba.
It's for the classes, sir. Yeah. A lot of my friends right now, instead of getting their masters here in the Philippines, sa ibang bansa na sila nagma-masters. Kasi ang point nito, it's just the same. Parang pares lang na presyo. Plus there's scholarships and also the rankings nga. So just imagine, sir, ang laki na paniniwala ko sa kabataan Pilipino, I swear. I see a lot of potential, especially when it comes to the research that I've been reading. Pero just imagine if they have a bountiful data, they have bountiful, parang if this foreign entity would come here and to do something new to them, that would spark something.
Yes.
A lot of innovations.
Creativity.
I remember I attended an ADB event for innovation that was it was from other country. Tapos parang they're the ones who telling us, this is it, at ganito gumawa ng project, this is ganyan. In just 2 days, the Filipino youth was able to introduce something really great. And just imagine how much more if it's in a formal form of education, when it is at the tertiary level. Diba? Parang sobra akong nanghihinayang. I remember, I think it was Congressman Tony Pett who said this, na parang, we need the best level of education be available for the Filipinos right here.
Exactly.
Diba? Parang, why would you restrict education? Maintindihan ko pa all of their fears, pero education, it should be globalized. It's not something na parang ikakahon mo of all the things na parang you should be able to talk to other countries, to get their best practices, to do all of those things, ang pangarap ko, sir, here in the Philippines, that the other countries would cite the research and the papers of Filipinos. Diba? Parang yun yung talagang dream. Yun yung
Actually,
aspiration.
going back to the part on foreign education in the Philippines.
Yes,
so
sir.
Foreign universities and foreign institutes of higher learning setting up in the Philippines. Yung ginagawa nga ng ibang bansa, like yun nga sa Malaysia and even Singapore, hindi necessarily para lamang sa mga mamamayan nila ang mga schools na yan. No? Ang ginagawa nila, nagbubukas sila ng yung RMIT, meron din sa sa Malaysia yata. Meron
Monash.
Can't remember. Monash pala, Monash. Monash meron sa Malaysia. No, and then there's several other foreign mga British na universities na nandun. So nag-set up sila doon, tapos meron silang number of slots na inaano nila para yung mga non-Malaysians ang makakapag-aral doon. So yun naman, that's added parang tourist revenue yun eh. Kasi yung mga taong galing sa ibang bansa na dun mag-aaral sa Malaysia, dun sa mga foreign universities na yan, na imbis na pumunta sila sa Europe or sa US or sa Australia na nag-aral, nandun sila sa Malaysia, yung mga citizens of other countries na yan na nandun ngayon sa Malaysia, nagsispend ng
Money.
pera doon, di ba?
Short courses.
Yun,
Naging
short courses.
regional hub
Naging
sila.
regional hub. Ganun din sa Singapore. So,
Singapore, yeah. I know a lot of my friends who goes to Singapore for a short course.
Short courses.
So, hotel yun, buy sa hotel,
Airline.
food, airline. So, daming pumapasok na
Magsha-shopping din
revenue.
yan pag nandito.
Yes.
diba?
Parang short course is 10 days or less. Ganyan. So,
Lilibot
parang,
din yun. Magsa-sightseeing. So, ang daming spill. Actually, the education market is really malaking multiplier effect niyan sa economy. Because of, they have to live here, find housing, and then they have to spend here. Everything, food, clothing, side trips, telecom,
transportation.
you know, you name it, banking, cinema, whatever. Ang laki nung potential revenue dyan. And the fact that the Philippines is an English-speaking country, it just,
sobrang sayang.
And then we have all the beaches. Ang
dami
ganda
natin-
sanang
daming advantages talaga sa kanila natin.
Tourism, non-education, short courses.
Yes.
Alala ko yun nung nandun tayo sa house hearing, minention ko yun sa mga slides ko. Sabi ko nga, isa sa mga pwede nating gawin, makapag-akit tayo ng mga foreign universities na mag-set up doon sa mga probinsya, sa mga area na medyo malayo, para mas malaki yung kanilang campus. No? So malaki yung kanilang campus, tapos yung area na yun na siguro mahirap ngayon, magiging more economically viable kasi dadami ngayon yung mga estudyanteng nandun, dadami ngayon yung mga foreign students din na mag-aaral doon. Magiging hub yung area na yun, magiging city siya. This is why some cities in other countries become cities kasi they were originally sleepy areas, mga wala namang kwenta talaga yung lugar na yun, pero nagkaroon ng university campus doon. Suddenly nagkaroon ng economic activity yung lugar. Pwede natin gawin yan sa Pilipinas.
At saka the locals from there would get equal opportunity to better education. Like for example, in Mindanao or in Visayas.
Exactly.
Kasi puro Manila na lang. What's a great idea, sir?
It's really an economic development strategy rin.
Yes.
Kasi in Adelaide, where I'm from, they tried to do that by inviting all these foreign universities to set up because it's not Sydney or Melbourne, it's sort of a smaller city. So it was a strategy adopted to foster nga yung opportunity not just for locals but also to attract foreign and sure enough, maraming American students from Pittsburgh would spend a semester in South Australia. And so maganda kasi and then nagkaka-exchange tuloy. So magandang yun. Magandang
Ganun sana, 'di ba? I mean, yun ang ginagawa na-mention ko rin yun na yun ang nangyari dun sa Malaysia, sa Johor, the state of Johor. Yeah. Merong isang area doon na there's an area na tabi ng Johor Bahru, the city. And then yung area na yun ginawang Edu City. So Edu City. So yung Johor government, they made that area into a hub na saan yung mag-iimbita sila ng maraming foreign universities na dun sila nag-set up sa area na yun.
So I
yun yung
could see New Clark City attracting.
Pwede nga sana yun di ba?
Pwedeng ganon.
Oo.
Yung mga ganon. So, kasi nandun may airport na
May airport na rin malapit na siya.
Magkaka-hospital na.
Ayun, so that it's really a strategy for development.
Especially also for a specialized type of development which is aimed at decongesting the capital or creating new economic centers.
For underdeveloped places, it is a strategy for developing them. Yung meds and eds, or for like the Rust Belt, for regenerating them. It's a strategy for doing that.
Exactly. Kailangan yun kasi, I mean, number one, ito yung isang issue talaga natin sa Pilipinas. Sobrang daming tao sa Metro Manila, tapos underdeveloped naman yung mga probinsya natin. So, ang gusto natin mangyari is mas spread out natin yung development. How do we do that? Well, of course, bring in investors or economic activity to those areas. One way of doing that is yung schools. Diba? Papadala mo yung mga magagandang schools na dun sila mag-set up.
But the challenge is always, how do you attract the faculty? Let's say, like, kung may American university.
Yun nga,
nandyan na nga yung beaches natin eh.
Oh,
Yes.
exactly.
Our warm culture.
Yun.
Diba?
Exactly.
So, ang daling ibenta sana ng Pilipinas.
Yun nga, ang problema nga kasi natin sa Pilipinas, yung restrictions natin, which are all self-inflicted sabotage moves. Yun yung nangyari sa atin eh. I mean, naalala mo siguro yung sinabi ko dati doon sa hearing, I don't know, na kwento ko. Sabi ko, may mga malalakas na mga bansa, mga makapangyarihang mga bansa, na kapag meron silang hindi gustong ibang bansa, na naging kaaway nila, may problema, may atraso sa kanila, pinaparusahan nila yung bansa na yon through yung tinatawag natin trade embargo or investment embargo. Diba? Ang gagawin nila, lahat ng mga kumpanya, kunyari, Estados Unidos, sasabihin nila, ang mga kumpanya na Amerikano, huwag kayong makikipagnegosyo dyan sa bansang yan, huwag kayong magtatayo ng opisina dyan, huwag kayong magtatayo ng pabrika dyan, huwag kayong mag-i-invest dyan, huwag kayong makikipagkalakal dyan. Diba? Sasabihan din nila yung mga kaibigan nilang mga bansa, France, Germany, lahat kayo, huwag kayong makikipagkaibigan din dyan. Ganon. Diba? So, trade and investment embargo. Ngayon, tayong Pilipinas, parang ginawa natin sa sarili natin yung ganon.
Self-inflicted.
Self-inflicted investment embargo. Bawal kayo pumasok dito. Sino ngayon yung kawawa? Tayo. Ginawa na natin sa sarili natin dahil sa mga restrictions na yan.
Well, ganyan talaga eh. And actually ngayon, si Secretary Raimundo, Commerce Secretary ng US, na-interview siya, napanood ko eh. Talagang ginagawa yan yung sinasabi mo Kasi yung mga Fortune 500 na nasa mainland China ngayon, after nung COVID and after nung lockdown doon and after nung geopolitics, tinatanong talaga siya, saan mo ba kami gustong pumunta? Talagang gagawin namin. Totohanan talaga. So, yun yung mga kaalyado ng Amerika, sila na ang willing pumasok eh. Tayo yung nag-sanction sa sarili natin dahil dito sa mga restriction na to.
I also remember, Sir Doy, there's a kapihan session with the Senate President. He's the one actually, who told the media na parang yung US naghahanap na talaga ng ibang alternative to China.
Hindi lang dahil sa geopolitics, kundi yung mahirap ilagay yung lahat ng eggs mo sa isang basket.
Yes. But it was sinabi din ni Senate President, and after I think his visit sa US, talking to legislators as well, they're actually looking for. Tapos parang I think it has something to do with paggawa ng mga arms or something, ganun. So parang imagine kung wala tayong restrictions and we have a very good relationship with the US, diba?
Exactly.
So at least man lang, aside from the geopolitics, we can earn something from that, investments in
Kaya nga, instead of just yung sailing sa South China Sea, dapat meron, kasi
pera dapat eh.
Ito na yung moment natin eh, di ba? Ito na yun eh. Ito na yung hinahanap natin eh. They are looking. Tayo naman,
sinabotahin natin ang sarili natin with all those restrictions.
True.
Self-inflicted nga.
Yes. Sir, actually, it was actually the Senate President who convinced me to actually give the resolution of both houses 6 and 7 a chance. Kasi sinasabi niya, di ba, nung mga una-una kasama naman siya ni BBM going to other places. Even in a regular session, he was like saying, may mga concerns yung mga other countries. Madaming pledges, di ba? Yung mga critics of the president would say, nasa na, puro pledges, ganyan. They didn't know that all of these countries are interested into investing in our country. It's just that, because sabi nga ni Sir Orion, we're self-sabotage in a sense. So, when he filed RBH 6, what he said really convinced me to actually be an advocate for this. Kasi sabi niya, we tried it last Congress, 18th Congress, diba? We tried it with the Public Services Act. Although, okay, akala natin okay na siya. Pero dami kasing nag-file sa Supreme Court. So right now, kunwari, kahit naman din ako ang isang foreign entity na marami nag-file sa Supreme Court, ba't ako mag-i-invest sa Philippines when in 3, 4, 5 years, marule ng Supreme Court against that? Paano ko ibabalik from 100%? Hahanap ako ng 60% para lang mag-move yung company
And
ko.
laws are considered transitory. But the Constitution the fundamental
It's more
loan.
solid
Oo.
fundamentals.
Yes.
So, yung Public Services Act na yan, that they legislated in 1 year, they can always, yung
They can strike it down as unconstitutional, unfortunately.
what you give with one hand, the other can take away the next time around. So, putting it in the Constitution will give them greater certainty, yung mga foreign investors.
Yes, correct. Ikaw, sir, if you have $100 million, 100% na siya sa PSA, diba? Pero, would you invest it in the country? Pag hindi mo alam, in 3 to 5 years, babalik ka.
O baka ma-invalidate
yung
yung
investment.
permission na binigay sa iyo na pwede ka sanang pumasok, bigla na lang mawawala.
Yes,
Which is
exactly.
exactly what happened, by the way, to FedEx many years ago. So FedEx, we all know FedEx is a courier company.
Yes.
Diba? Courier company, nagdi-deliver, ganyan. And they are an American company. So, I think they're 100% American owned. No? Now, nandito sila sa Pilipinas. Dati meron silang Subic, meron yan.
Nandun ako nun.
May hub sila dati, di ba? Sa Subic. Ngayon, eventually, I think there was some local courier company na nababanas sa FedEx dahil ang lakas ng FedEx. Ginawa nila, nag-file sila ng lawsuit against FedEx. Ang ginamit nilang rason, dahilan, ang FedEx daw ay unconstitutional, sabi nila. Kasi public utility daw sila. Yung FedEx na yan, public utility yan eh. Bakit kung public utility yan, bakit allowed sila na pumasok sa Pilipinas na 100% American-owned? Public utility nga, hindi daw dapat pwede.
Parang PUV sila, public utility, transport.
Parang ganun. Public utility ang FedEx. Tapos so nangyari, umabot pa nga sa Court of Appeals. Tapos ngayon, na-uphold ng Court of Appeals yung sinasabing judgment na they are unconstitutional. So, I think it was 2012 or 2013 nang nangyari yun. Alaskado mga Pilipinong nandun sa mga, I think in Hong Kong, Singapore, yung mga those who know people in the business community. Ayun ang nangyari, no? So, in any case, we'll need to stop for a little bit of a break. So, ladies and gentlemen, mga kaibigan, mga katuto, may konting commercial break muna tayo. Stay there, stay put. See you again. Okay, welcome back mga kaibigan, mga kababayan at mga katoto. Nandito po tayo sa Orion's Belt. Ako po si Orion Perez Dumdum at kasama ko po ang aking mga kaibigan, mga guests. Nandito si Justin Manila at nandito si Dr. Doy Santos. Okay, baka nagtatanong kayo bakit Doy Santos? Kilala siya as Emmanuel Santos kasi Emmanuel Candido Santos pala siya.
Nakuha ko yun sa lolo ko.
Yun sa lolo
yung
mo.
parusa sa akin nung tatay ko
Candido,
Pinahaba niya
naging
yung
Doy.
pangalan ko
Ayun.
Kasi Don Doy siya, ako Doy lang.
Yun. Anyway, ayun. So balik tayo dito sa pinag-uusapan natin tungkol sa mga economic restrictions and all that. No? So, obviously, parang ang nangyayari sa atin sa Pilipinas, yun nga, parang gumawa tayo ng self-embargo. Parang self-sanctions, no? Diba? Kasi yung ginagawa ng ibang bansa, like US, diba? Galit sila kay Cuba. O, bawal kayong makipagnegosyo dyan sa Cuba. O, bawal kayong mag-invest dyan, mga ganon-ganon. Diba? Parang ginawa natin sa sarili natin. Bawal kayong mag-invest sa amin. Sino may nang kawawa? Tayo.
Totoo yan, sir.
Pero alam mo
diba?
ba, Orion, kung saan nanggaling yan?
Oo, nakalala kong mga kinikwento mo.
Kasi pinapalabas dun sa EDSA Puera advertisement na yung EDSA Revolution daw. Dun daw nagsimula. Pero alam naman natin na nandun na yung karamihan. Nadagdagan lang sa 87.
Oo.
Pero nung 73, meron na yan.
Meron na, oo.
At nung 35, nung Commonwealth time, meron na
din.
rin.
Oo, meron na rin.
Mas
Yes.
konti lang. Pero hindi yun yung pinagmulan ng lahat na to
Oo.
Hindi alam nung karamihan sa ating mga kababayan na actually, ang mga Kano ang naglagay ng mga provision na yan
Yun.
sa Philippine Organic Act of 1902.
Yun, exactly.
Hindi alam ng tao yan, ano? Hindi tinuturo sa eskwela niyan.
Hindi kasi akala kasi yata ng maraming mga Pilipino, lalo na yung mga kumukontra sa mga ganitong reforma na pabuksan natin para dumami ang investors, na sinasabi nila, hindi, ang gusto namang magpapasok niyan ay mga Kano kasi gusto nilang i-dominate yung ibang bansa. Yun yung inisip nila. So, ito, ang nangyari nga, dahil sa sinasabi mo tungkol sa history, ito pala, yung mga Amerikano pala, ang sinasabi nila, bawal ang mga Amerikano pumasok diyan sa Pilipinas, ha? Or parang linagyan nila ng restrictions, no? 100.
Correct.
It's a very computer number, a very binary, 1,024 hectares, di ba? 1024.
2,500 acres
Oo,
kasi
ganon.
acreage yung mga. Kasi alam nyo, 1902 Philippine Organic Act, katatapos lang nung Philippine-American War. So cessation of hostility. Well, nag-surrender na si Aguinaldo. So after that, kailangan na nilang lagyan ng batas. Kung paano,
Ano ba yung magiging ugnayan nila sa Pilipinas? Ano ba talaga?
Correct. So parang yung
Kolonya
sa BARM,
ba to o ano?
di ba like yung sa BARM, na Organic Act, di ba?
Oo.
So sa Pilipinas, ang ginawa nila, Organic Act din. Kasi ang tinuturo sa atin yung Jones Law, di ba?
Jones Law, yeah.
1916 naman yun
Oo.
But between that and the end of the Philippine-American War was the Philippine Organic Act. Ngayon, sabihin mo, bakit? Bakit nilagay
Bakit nilalagyan?
Counterintuitive, di ba?
Counterintuitive.
Ito ang dahilan. It's written in a paper published by a working paper by Harvard. Sinabi nila that nung pinagdidebatehan sa US Congress yung Philippine Organic Act, may umangal. Ang daming umangal actually.
Oo.
Yung agam-agam nanggaling sa mga southern states ng Amerika, which were predominantly Democrat at that time. Kasi alam mo, nung 1860, di ba, nagka-civil war over slavery. Si Lincoln, di ba? So, katatapos lang nung gera na yun sa Amerika, yung Civil War. 1898, di ba?
Teka, kailangan natin ipaalala sa ating mga kaibigan dito na inung time na yun, si Lincoln ay Republican.
Siya yung nagtayo.
Siya yung nagtayo. Siya yung
the party of Lincoln is the GOP.
The Republican Party was the anti-slavery party. They're the abolitionist party.
They created an amendment to the US Constitution to emancipate the slaves, right?
Exactly.
Ngayon, kapag sinurvey mo yung mga tao sa Estados Unidos nung panahon na yon, lalo na dun sa South, yung mga separatist, Kung pabor ba kayo sa amendment na palayain ang mga ang mga slaves, I'm sure baka 89, hindi lang 88% ang magsasabing
99%
not
yata.
now,
Oo.
not now. Yes, but not now.
99% yata.
But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it
Yeah,
for moral
exactly.
reasons, no? We shouldn't be swayed.
Yeah.
Si SP, we shouldn't be swayed by the surveys. It requires leadership. So Lincoln was that kind of leader.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Binuwis niya yung buhay niya kasi inassassinate niya pagkatapos na, di ba?
Assassinate
But anyway, we're getting back to the story. Yung mga Democrats sa South umaangal.
Oh.
Bakit? Kasi biruin mo yon, wala na silang slaves, di ba? Tapos ngayon, sila na yung nagbubungkal, babayaran na nila yung mga trabahador. Ngayon, magkakaroon ng colony na nagtatanim din ng asukal. As a colony, makakapasok na yon sa Estados Unidos, walang taripa, wala. So natatakot sila nung panahon na yon. Pag may nagtayo ng plantation na kano sa Pilipinas, hindi na tayo palalayain ng Amerika.
Oo.
Talagang magiging permanente na.
Baka maging teritoryo tayo, and in fact, baka eventually maging state.
Estado, baka parang Puerto Rico.
Parang Puerto Rico or Guam, mga ganun
Yun,
tipo, no? O Hawaii. So ang takot, ito nakikita ko, no? Kasi obviously nga, most people don't know this, na it was the Republicans back then who were the anti-slavery people, and it was the Democrats, I hate to say it, that the Democrats then were the racists. The Ku Klux Klan was I hate to
No,
say this,
that's
but
true.
The Ku Klux Klan was
Kasi si
founded by
Andrew-
Democrats, Southern Democrats.
Andrew Jackson, who was the first Democratic president, nung linagay ni Trump yung picture niya sa Oval Office, tas nag-imbita siya ng mga black leaders, nagalit sila Kasi si Andrew Jackson, yung sa mga
slaves.
Indians,
Sa mga
diba?
Indians.
Very So yung tawag sa kanila nung panahon na yun, Dixiecrat. It wasn't until the time of
Southern.
FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because they were thinking about the poor people of the South. So sila yung nag-social justice sa states. So that by the time of the 60s, Martin Luther King, di ba, inenact yung civil rights. It was Jack Kennedy, a Democrat, who did that. Nag-flip ngayon. Naging Democrat yung pro
Social
equality.
justice, oo.
Yung Republicans ngayon, eventually, now under Trump, especially after Obama, naging Southern yung base nila.
Naging conservative.
But that time, it was a Republican president, Teddy Roosevelt, who wanted the bill passed. Kasi nga, tapos na yung gulo dito. Gusto na nilang lagyan ng konting katahimikan, no? So, to allay the fears of the Democrats in the House, they inserted provisions that prevented Americans from owning 1,024 hectares
Or,
or
from owning more than
2.5 acres of land. And they made it difficult for the insular government, the government here, to issue mining and utilities permits to American companies. The intention was so that there would be no vested interests in maintaining the Philippines as a colony. So after that, eventually you had the Jones Law, which stated na you're on the path to independence na.
Oo. Doon
So-
na lang sila na-placate.
Yes.
Diba? Yung mga Democrats
So
na yun.
na-restrict, that's where the restriction started. So guess what? Kung sinong nabigyan ng mga biyaya ng panahon na yun?
Yung mga oligarchs ng Pilipinas.
Yung mga Chinese mestizo principales na mayayaman, mga trader, na siya namang gustong iakit ng Amerika na kumalas sa independence movement ni Aguinaldo.
Ayun, okay.
So, yun ang story.
Oo.
niya.
Sobrang deeply rooted
Actually, I
pa
was
siya sa
going to-
history, no?
Oo.
I wanted to also explain, no, para maging mas klaro sa maraming tao, na yung mga Democrats na yun, yung kanilang wag niyo sakupin ng Pilipinas, hindi yun for benevolent reasons,
no,
ha?
no.
It was actually for racist reasons.
No.
Na ito kasi takot nila. Kung dumami ang mga negosyanteng Amerikanong pumasok sa Pilipinas, magiging economically integrated ang Pilipinas sa
okay.
US, which again will become a step towards magiging para tayong Hawaii.
Which
And
for them is a liability.
it's a liability because unlike Hawaii, which is a small island, small area na konti lang yung mga tao, or Guam or Puerto Rico, na maliliit lang.
Volcanic.
Oh, maliliit lang na lugar na konti lang yung tao. Ang Pilipinas, malalaki ang mga isla natin,
At
marami ang mga tao
tao.
natin.
Correct.
Ang population size natin at that time was already similar to, I think, a little greater than the population size of the state of New York.
Wasn't it 6 or 7 million?
Parang
at the
nandun tayo
time?
sa 6 to 7 million tayo, and I think that was very
Kasi the
comparable.
first thing they did on the act was to create a census.
Oo.
And then from that census, election na, Philippine
Oo.
Assembly.
So just to make it clear, no,
cool.
natatakot ang mga Southern Democrats who were very racist na kapag tawag nito, economically integrate ang Pilipinas sa US, magiging citizen ang mga Pilipino at magkakaroon sila ng karapatang pumasok sa mainland. Hindi sila puti. They is not white. They is darkies. And they is not Protestant. They is Papists. So yung mga Ku Klux Klan, di ba? Mga Ku Klux Klan kasi marami sa kanila eh. Ayaw nila ng mga Katoliko. Ayaw nila ng mga hindi puti.
Yeah.
Tayo, hindi naman tayo puti. Hindi naman tayo katulad din ng yung kanilang religion. Tayo, karamihan sa atin ay
Brown.
brown,
Little brown brother.
Roman Catholics, di ba?
Yeah.
So, they wanted to keep us out.
Yes.
So, yung gusto nilang gawin is to not integrate the Philippines
With the US.
with the US economy. Yun, yung real reason.
But what happened was, instead of the US companies forming here, ang nakakontrol ng mga mining and utilities licenses that were issued by the Philippine Assembly were the same people and the people who got the land was that Chinese mestizo principales, yung class, no? The criollos of Latin America were actually them, sila.
Yeah.
So, eventually, yung 1935 Constitution na, as in almost verbatim, linipat nila yung mga restrictions na yun sa 35 Constitution dahil, syempre, kailangan nilang i-maintain yun.
Oo.
Then, so, the only time that got lifted was from 46 to 74 because of the parity amendment. So on their way out, the Americans, nagtakas sila, hindi tayo nakinabang dito.
I think part of the reason why naisip naman din ng mga Americans na pwede naman, okay na, we can invest there, we can bring in as many companies, American companies into the Philippines. Kasi at least they're already an independent country. Hindi sila Amerikano.
Hindi sila magiging state.
Hindi sila magiging state.
The threat of us
wasn't
integrating wasn't there anymore.
Yung nga yung problema kasi nga nila is kapag sobrang dami nating Pilipino nag-integrate dun sa kanila na naging citizens.
That may bring their economy down.
No. That'll remove the yung parang white purity issue.
The prestige of.
They were talking about a racist country at that time.
Yeah.
We're talking about a racist country. They segregated people who were not white, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about a country that was very, very racist.
And also, they were giving us parang war reconstruction money, aid after the war. We were the most bombed, second to
Poland.
Warsaw, I think.
Yeah.
We were the second most devastated. So they said in exchange for that, and we'll give you market access. But I also want to say that the 50s was the time when we grew so fast. We have never had that kind of growth ever since. 6.4% per annum. That's the highest for an entire decade. And that was the time when we were completely open to FDI from the US, who were the only ones capable of FDI at the time because Europe was devastated, Japan was devastated. The US was actually helping them reconstruct. And so, that is a natural experiment kung tawagin sa social science.
Yeah.
There was this policy change. Suddenly, the growth lifted. In 1958, when Magsaysay died and CP Garcia introduced the Filipino First policy, biglang bumagsak yung growth level natin, and manufacturing was just growing at double digits, contracted by more than half.
Grabe.
That's documented by Hutchcroft. And so, we can see from that experiment whether FDI helps or hinders. Because what happened was nung sinabi nilang, hindi, ang Pilipinas para sa Pilipino lang dapat.
Oh.
Ganyan. Anong ginawa ng mga oligarchs then was inabuso nila yung sistema ng paggamit ng foreign exchange. Kasi at that time, the only forex we were earning was from sugar. Agriculture. And that was supposed to be meant to be used to import capital equipment so we could replace our manufactured imports. Ang ginawa nila, trinade nila yung import license, binenta nila sa mga mag-i-import ng finished products. And especially nung na-renegotiate, we devalued our currency, lumakas lalo yung export. Ang ginawa nila, in-import nila yung mga magagarang bagay. And so nagka-crisis tayo as a result. And because of that boom and bust, that's what led the people to elect President Marcos in the late 60s. Yeah. And what he tried to do was revive it through nationalization of industries using state money, which he borrowed from the IMF, World Bank, and other banks, commercial banks. And we know what happened there. So we know now, we're completely open, completely restrictive, and then the state trying to do it all on its own. We've seen what happens.
Yeah.
And then after EDSA, we tried to open our trade, but we restricted investment. That's the worst thing you can do.
Yeah,
because if you can just import,
you get finished products.
Why do I need to set up a factory here? We did the reverse of
Baliktad. The best situation is sana kung open ka to investments, kahit foreign investments, okay sila, pero siguro ang gagawin mo, yung mga imports galing sa labas, lalagyan mo ng restrictions, no? Lalagyan mo ng tariffs and all that. Siguro, you do that. That's probably the most optimal, di ba? Kasi you're able to get job-creating investors to come inside. Pero ang ginawa ng Pilipinas after 87, after EDSA, was that we opened up to allow imports to freely come in, pero yung investments naman, pinahirapan pa natin lalo na pumasok. So yun yung kabaliktaran nung
nung 1950s.
Oo, nung 1950s.
So yun hindi na alam ng tao na kung saan galing yung Filipino first. Yung sinasabi nilang kailangan maging makabayan tayo. Ang Pilipinas para sa Pilipinas lamang. Hindi nila alam na ang ugat nun ay yung colonial government ng
mga Amerikano.
Nung natalo tayo sa Philippine-American War, ito yung linagay nila sa batas dito. Hindi nila alam na doon nang galing yun
Hindi nila alam na in a way, that was a trade sanction or an investment sanction set up by the Americans to prevent the Philippines from becoming economically integrated with the US because of the fear of the Southern Democrats who were very, very racist. Ku Klux Klan.
Up until now naman at some point.
Ku Klux Klan. They didn't want us mixing with them. That's the way it was before.
Yeah.
So, yun yung reason nila na wag natin papasukin ng mga Amerikano dyan sa lugar na yan na bagong acquired natin.
Yes.
Kasi yung mga yan, kung naging citizen sila, magdadagsaan sa US yan. Hindi sila puti. Iba tayo. Kung puti sana tayo, but they might have been more welcoming. But no, that's not the case. I'm sorry to say.
It's also a little known fact. Kasi our president under the Commonwealth, Quezon, Osmeña, and Rojas, they also came from the sugar-growing regions, right?
Yes.
And there's an item in the diary of Truman when they were already passing the Philippine Independence Act that in private daw, they told him not to veto it so that they could continue exporting. It's in that paper, in that Harvard paper. It's a little-known fact.
Wow. Grabe
yan.
Pasabog na naman. No?
Wait lang
Pero ito talaga yung dapat ituro dun sa mga yung mga kumukontra sa reforma, sa mga lalo na yung mga leftists.
And where did I get that? From a Harvard business, so foreign
foreign research, foreign
publication with our researchers. Kasi ang mga makabayan dito, ang hinanakit talaga nila yung 46th Amendment to the 35 where we gave parity rights. Kasi to get that passed, Rojas stopped the Democratic Alliance led by Luis Taruk, yung hook
Komunista
leader,
yun eh.
from
Si
sitting
Taro.
in. And they got it passed by getting 2/3 of those present instead of all the members. So that's why later on, and it went to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court accepted it. That's how it got passed. And ever since, hindi na sila nakaupo.
That is interesting. That is interesting.
So for them, that's the original sin.
Yes, the whole time that Sir Doy and Sir Ryan was like talking about history. Oh, ano, yeah. I think, yun, dun pala nga talaga nag-originate. Sa mga nanonood sa atin, they could be, this is very makabayan. Well, in fact, it was America who introduced this to our Constitution, which is like, okay.
Grabe nga talaga eh. Ngayon, yung sana makita ng mga taong nagsasabing makabayan sila na ang tunay na pagiging makabayan ay yung pagtutulong sa mga taong bayan, sa mga ordinaryong tao.
Exactly.
Na magkatrabaho sana sila para hindi na maging tambay, hindi na magiging pulubi, di ba?
Oo. Maging mulat na rin talaga. In the
mulat
true
na.
sense.
Oo, kasi yun talaga yung problema. Kitang-kita naman, it's proven na nangyari na sa ibang bansa yan. Nangyari sa Singapore. Ginaya ng China ang Singapore. Ayan, ng China naging superpower na. Ginaya ng Malaysia at ng Indonesia at ng Thailand at ng Vietnam ang Singapore. Kaya ngayon, lahat sila umuunlad.
Yes.
Tayo lang ang hindi pa gumagawa
Yes,
ng ganun. Yung pagiging open sa foreign investors.
And because of that unique historical situation, unique in the world, that a colonial power would prevent its own citizens from exploiting its own colony. Because of that, we have to know what can work and what will not work here.
Yeah.
Because we cannot move a model, let's say hindi nationalist economic dapat. Because the reason why that will not work is that the political economy, the people who control the economy control the government.
Yes.
And so the government cannot act independently. Kaya hindi but we've already seen what works and what doesn't work here in our own country.
Actually, sir, parang I would understand all of the fears if wala tayong basis of comparison. Pero there's Vietnam, there's Singapore,
there's
Malaysia. Parang mas maiintindihan ko na wala pa tayong basis, wala pa tayong example. But right now, sabi nga ni President Marcos, the Constitution was not written in a globalized world. So parang I would like to reiterate, because it's so beautiful what Sir Ryan said, that if you're talking about patriotism, if you're talking the love for the country, create more jobs.
Yes.
Make the lives of the people better.
And we don't just have other countries to compare, we have ourselves to compare over time.
Yes.
Because yung sinasabi nilang ease of doing business lang yan corruption, infrastructure, whatever, that has been true throughout our history.
Yes.
We have not moved the needle on good governance,
Yes.
despite our best efforts at times. But what accounts for the differing levels of growth from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s onwards? What changed? Our policy about foreign direct
Openness. Kung open ba tayo o hindi open.
and
yun yung
Filipino
nagbago.
first.
Yes. Actually, yesterday nga dun sa round table, yung natin panel discussion dun sa Stratbase. Napakita ko nga dun sa grupo Actually, hindi totoo na corruption per se is a huge thing, because even at a time when we were considered less corrupt than Vietnam and Indonesia, Vietnam and Indonesia were receiving a lot more FDI than we were. And then so several times in the history since 2001, we were actually better than Indonesia. We were even better than Vietnam. No? So parang we were the least corrupt from the point of view of Transparency International. Pero we were receiving, comparative to these two countries, the least amount of foreign direct investments.
There was a famous regression line that showed if you are less corrupt, you will be richer.
Yes.
That went like that. But then, when they separated out the countries that were converging, like the Chinas and the Vietnams, and then they found that their corruption scores were just the same
Yeah.
as those like the Philippines and
Yes.
Yeah.
and so you know, it's there's a third variable there that is omitted that we're not observing. So ganun eh, and that's what debunked that whole thing na. And the thing about institutions is like parehas nga ang institutions sa Manila tsaka sa Davao, di ba? Or sa Bar. And yet what accounts for the different levels of income?
Yeah.
It's the same institution, right?
Exactly.
So there's something else that prevents it from happening.
I cited another paper also yesterday. No, sabi ko, by the way, there's also a study talking about the experience in Vietnam. Na doon sa Vietnam, napakita ng isang research paper na yung tawag nito, kapag yumaman ang isang bansa, bumababa ang corruption. And napakita yun sa isang paper talking about Vietnam.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
nung yumaman ng Vietnam, bumababa rin naman ang
so
corruption.
actually the causal link goes the other way. As
Yes.
countries get richer, they become less corrupt.
Ang conclusion nga doon sa particular study na yun, kahit wala kang gagawing mga explicit na mga anti-corruption measures, just simply, wala kang ginawa, pero yumaman lang kayo ng yumaman, syempre, dahil yumaman, tataas din yung sweldo ng mga public, mga tao, yung mga public officials, etc. Tataas ang mga sweldo nila, gaganda ang buhay nila, magiging less yung rason nila na maging corrupt kasi gumanda na yung kanilang buhay eh. So,
same as with crimes, diba? If same as with crimes, if the environment is okay, there's work, there's
magle-lessen yung crimes din.
In the Philippines, the reason why corruption doesn't go down despite our best efforts is because the people who wanted to be corrupt are the same ones who control our economy, unfortunately. And so the way to make it less corrupt is to open up the economy.
Yun.
Yes.
So you go back to the original.
Going back to opening up and people who control the economy, they're senators. I'm not going to be careful with this because this is the truth. 2 senators who's from the same family are against RBH 6. Why? Because they're the ones who can afford the 60% and have and be partnered with the 40%. Am I right? I mean, yesterday it was announced that family is the number 1 richest in the Philippines.
Okay, alam na natin kasi.
Yeah, but the point is, there are 2 votes in the Senate.
Yes.
But the main point here is they just don't want competition. They just
That's
don't want other foreign investments to come here.
So when they say we want to simplify regulation, what they really mean is we want ease of doing business for us, but
Exactly.
make it harder for everybody else.
Yes,
That's what they really mean.
Exactly. Because the truth is, the argument here is who can afford to partner with a foreign entity, which is a 60%. Those who are in the top of the business, diba? So the main point here, by restricting all of this, you're not protecting common Filipinos. You're protecting the oligarchs who
Yes.
can afford to be partners with the foreign entities.
Exactly. Yun nga yun eh. Ang nangyayari, pinoprotektahan natin ang mga mayayaman na. Hindi natin binibigyan ng oportunidad yung mga taong mahihirap, yung mga taong nangangailangan na umangat ang kanilang mga buhay. Diba? Yan yung problema ng sistema na meron tayo. Yun ang problema ng mga taong kumukontra dito sa ganitong mga reformang isinusulong natin.
Exactly.
And who convinced the people who are oppressed by that system that it is in their interest to keep the system the way it is?
Sino ba? Well, let's leave on that thought. We're down to our very last minute. So, kinakailangan natin ng mga final words. So, ladies first. Justin Manila.
Yes, I would like to use this opportunity to call upon our senators and give RBH6 a chance. I mean, be fair on this. You know in your heart, and when you look at the Pulse Asia survey executive summary, it doesn't have anything to do with the measures that they filed themselves. So all I'm saying here is just give RBH6 a chance. Let's discuss this and then make a decision out of what is good in the country and not by the popular opinion as per the surveys. Yan lang po. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Doy, ano masasabi natin?
Yeah, so I'd like to go back to the earlier point na we self-inflicted wound yung pag-restrict, because actually ngayon the biggest sales pitch for the Philippines are actually our workers overseas.
Yes.
Kasi maraming napapansin nila, ang galing ng mga Filipino worker, manggagawa, no? Ang sisipag nila, ang babait, di ba? Na sila why don't I invest in the Philippines? Kasi nandun sila galing eh. What's the country that produces such good workers? Doon na ko lang ilalagay yung pabrika ko. Instead, because that's what China did with the Guangxi. When they tried to open up, the way they did it was through their diaspora. So, let's do that. We have such a golden opportunity today.
Yun. Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, maraming salamat sa inyong pagtangkilik sa aming programa ngayon. Ako po si Orion Perez Dumdum for Orion's Belt. Please, ladies and gentlemen, watch us again next week for Orion's Belt, 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Thank you.
The views, opinions, and insinuations made by the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the show, the management, and Vantage Point Media.